On today's Minute of the Apes, we're going to talk about Batman podcasts.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! Ready to the divine bomb. The only good human is a dead human! Where there is fire, there is smoke.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. It's Friday. That means that I get to be Todd. That gets to be Sean. Who do you get to be today, man, with the flowing locks of red hair?
No braids yet.
No Viking braid yet. Working on it though.
So that's Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi everybody.
And Gertie's asleep.
Hi, everybody.
I need my caffeine. I've had caffeine once this morning. It's time for.
You didn't get any water during the break, did you?
I just drank it in the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
We've said it before. We when we record these
A week at a time.
a week at a time on a Sunday morning. This is Father's Day, and usually Richard. So what time do you get up in the morning?
4 a.m.
4 a.m., which is just absolutely insane. But you get up and you do your.
That's about my second pee time, I think.
Is it
4
really?
4
Do you
a.m.?
pee in the middle of the night? Do you get up to go to the bathroom?
Oh, yeah, I'll get up. Well, I drink a lot of water during the day, so I have to pee a lot during the night. Also, I'm old.
I just wet the bed. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that.
But then you just wear a diaper.
That's all right. I put down the plastic sheet beneath and I just go. Even though last night, so we're asleep, and for whatever reason, Shelly, she's usually really quiet. Last night, she's making all kinds of, and she's talking to herself, and all of a sudden, her feet started pushing me. I'm like, sweetheart,
Enough.
get your feet off my fucking body. Go, look, there comes a point when in bed, you don't need your partner touching you. It's like, leave me alone, let me sleep. Back to you.
You know what?
4
I
a.m.
just told this about 2 weeks ago. I'm asleep. My husband's next to me. We've got 4 pillows in the bed.
How many dogs are in the bed?
No dogs.
No
in the
dogs,
bed.
okay.
There are. We each have 2 pillows. He's sleep moving, if you will, like he's in the middle of like dreaming or sleeping or whatever. He physically takes both of his hands, pulls the pillow out from under my head, puts it under his, and
What the fuck?
I was like,
keep
I
sleeping.
reach over, try to grab the pillow back. I'm like, what happened? What the fuck just happened? And he like, ugh. He wouldn't give up the pillow. I'm like, I guess I'm just sleeping with one pillow now. It was weird. It was so forceful. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, this is my pillow now. No, it was like, it just yanked it and put it under his head.
Sleeping with another
Bizarre.
person is really weird.
Yeah.
I was trying to. This could be an in between. I promise we're going to get back to this when we're point on, but I'm just going to finish this.
Sorry.
That I said to Abby recently, we have a friend whose brother and his wife don't sleep in the same bed. They just were like, we love each other.
That was my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side. They slept in different bedrooms because my grandfather, I think, snored so much my grandmother couldn't sleep with.
That's one thing, but these people, and I think that the husband does snore a little, but I think it was more of that they just said we don't see the purpose in sleeping in the same bed. And I mean, sure, if you're going to have relations and whatnot, it's easier, but you don't need it. I said that to Abby, and Abby's like, you're sleeping in the same bed with mom. And I was like, okay,
That's
my
not
child
changing
is
that.
basically telling me that's how it goes. I want to get to you. The reason I brought up all this that led to a little discussion about sleep and whatnot is that Richard gets up at 4 a.m. every time. Mm-hmm. I've gotten early texts from him, but never a 4 a.m. But at the same time, I've never seen you walk in here tired before. Today, I've looked over, and there may be times where we're talking, and it's when I know that we're done because I can see in Richard's face he's not going to say anything more to me, and Sean's looking at his phone playing Star Wars, and I'm the end of episode, right? This poor man, and he's doing it right now. He is yawning again. His eyes have been glassy and watery, like I'm going to fall asleep.
Well, I told you guys that I actually stayed up till 1 a.m. last night, which is rare.
Okay, I think you said that to him, and I was setting up. I didn't hear. So did you get together with a friend last night?
Yeah, we got
Comic artist Phil Jimenez is in town.
Yeah,
cool.
Phil's in town for Fan Expo, and we went out to dinner last night, and we stayed on the strip in the neighborhood at going to a couple of different bars for a while. We didn't get like tipsy or anything like that.
Right.
We had a
But
good
still,
time, but I was up
regardless.
later than normal. Usually I'm in bed sometime between like 9:30 and 10:30. Last night I was up till 1. I still woke up at 4 because that's just when I wake up. And the dog's like, hey, get up. Let's
Time to
get up."
go.
And I had work
Bathroom
to do
time.
before we started the podcast, so I'm just tired right now. And usually, you notice I also usually bring some caffeine with me.
Yeah, you
True.
did this time.
I didn't have a chance this time to get some.
By the way, I recently, since Abby came home, we drove through the neighborhood. We were down here, and that little child, and I've always told you, how welcoming she is of that world. And she was like, "Oh my God, I want to come down here." I'm like, "Then go."
Well, come down then.
We were surprised. The thing is, last night, and we're not briefly Friday night for dinner, also on the Strip, and then again last night. And Phil was just remarking that New York has nothing like this.
Oh, really?
He goes, they have areas where there are a few clubs put together or a few shops put together, but they don't really have a 4-block area with nothing but restaurants and bars and a few shops. And it was very vibrant the last 2 nights, and there was a lot of people out. And we went into a couple of different bars, and Chris and I were looking at all the 20-year-olds that were hanging out and having a good time. We're like, the kids are all right.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It felt like these people are, whatever their issues are outside right now, this is their community, and they're having a really good time.
I did have to tell Abby when she looked, I said, "You realize that," and she's been raised to be encompassing of all people and accepting and whatnot. And I said, "You're romanticizing a bit that if you stepped out here, everybody would just be like, 'Oh, we love you too.' There are just as many assholes
in the gay
as there are
community.
in the gay community as there is anywhere else." And she's 19. She still has a little bit of rose-colored glasses and whatnot. But still, there was something that night that we drove down. There was apparently a show or something going on because there's a very long line, and it was early enough that they weren't getting into the club to already start dancing. There's something going on, and it was you're driving down there. It's like, oh my God, this is so vibrant. It's amazing.
All right.
That's 7 minutes of talk that led to that.
we should talk about this.
We're going to start minute 20.
Speaking of vibrant cities and communities and
Oh,
neighborhoods,
there
here
it
we go.
is. He did the segue. Richard wins for the day. That's it. Everyone have a great day. Sean, tell us
Bye,
what's
everybody.
going on minute 20.
All right, we're going to start minute 20 with the humans being driven through Ape City and ends with pineapples and bananas for sale.
All right, here it comes. Minute 20 of Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Hey, where am I? What is this place?
As minute 20, we have an Oberon's worth of apes and humans, 2 displaced pods worth of humans and apes, and now running humans in a city and apes and captured people. Oh my goodness.
All right, so visually we start with the end of the previous shot, which had panned around. Now we're panning up, and we see a bit of a tree in the distance. We see, and I'm going to be unfair here and say there's a little bit of homoeroticism that goes into the people that are pulling the cart.
They're a little bit sweaty.
It's
a little
sweaty.
bit-
It's turned
that
their
oil
bodies so
blaze-
we can see
that
it.
oil blaze-
There's
oil
leather
based
straps
sweat.
upon it. I'm like, Jesus. I mean, I don't know. That one bothered me a little bit. But then we see them being whipped, pulling the cart. We see Chris in there. We see different humans behind these cages. And I do believe we see I don't think he could be an African-American gentleman since we're not on planet Earth. We'll say the black gentleman that got the crap walloped out of him that I said had to be dead. I think he's alive and inside that cart at the back, standing right behind Marky Mark.
Lives. Oh, yeah, that's who you're talking about, yeah.
And then it pulls away. Conveniently, there are spikes in this that allow the camera to see Marky Mark's face. We see apes going along and apparently smoking.
Well, it's a hookah, but
It is a hookah, but they're smoking some hooch.
But he's happy. And they're playing guitar. You notice they're playing the sitar with the feet and everything.
That is a combination of a sitar, a stand-up bass, everything. But because they're monkeys, They can play with their feet too. Now, I do have to call out real quick. That is a pretty cool little way of cheating in a hand as a foot so that it'll work. We go along. Mark's looking around, seeing all kinds of stuff. We're getting people shaved. We have another groan moment where we see a monkey grinder, but instead of the monkey being the one out getting things,
it's a man grinder. Then.
Yeah, it is a man grinder.
Human grinder.
Mark asks around. The humans within the cart shake their head.
He finally talks. Yes.
So, let's begin. Where do we begin? Because so much of it's just kind of innocuous.
Well, I do like the fact that Ape City, if you look to the very beginning of the shot, to the right side of it, you see kids like climbing up a wall.
Yeah.
And so they are showing this as a
monkey.
A three-dimensional city where they've taken into the fact that these are apes and they're not living just on the ground. They're living in multiple areas.
In the same way that I complained in the last minute or the minute prior about not establishing where everybody's at and just kind of having these no pants shots on Zoom.
Right.
This suffers, to me, the complete opposite. There are too many wide shots with too much action happening in it that I cannot...
They're trying to show Bustle City.
I cannot focus on the oddity of what's happening. You know, the person smoking the hookah just kind of happens as it sweeps by somebody who's also playing the weird device. Then we have this sweep in the trees.
I think that's the problem too, the movement.
There's a sweep through the trees before we get the person being shaved, but the person being shaved is small. And then the person throwing out the trash next to it is just equally as small. And I wanted to see the kids climbing up the tree. You wouldn't know that watching this without...
Right. You'd have to watch it a couple times.
You'd have to watch it a couple times to see that action happening. And this suffers from trying too wide to establish the city and not showing me what Davidson would zoom in on and see that's odd and usual.
I think that it's also, like when we talk about the hookah, that shot literally starts with a pan and it just sort of does a turn at the same time. It doesn't ever pan and stop on its moment and linger.
Right.
Because when you're moving, if I'm in that cart, I'm going to be moving. But I can then look at Sean, and to my vision, that stays stationary to it. Now, eventually it becomes I can't see it. But it's just such a swish pan across it that you don't even really get what they're doing.
Right, and then the next shot where they move through the trees up above.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at all tree line until I see the person getting shaved, and then I just see the person, whatever they're doing, tossing out trash or running down steps. I'm not sure what it was, but it's I don't. I need more of him to take in the moment of each individual thing that's happening around him that's weird than
especially it could have, like, once we saw I guess it's an orangutan doing the shaving or whatever, you could cut on the action and just take that same thing, cut tighter to it so that we see they have razors and things like that. He's taking in information. That's very doable, but they just miss out on it with this wanting the fluidity of the shots to go along with his motion in the cart, and that leads us to the monkey grinder, the human grinder.
I feel like in the last 2 days ago when they wrote damn dirty stinking humans, they also got that. Oh, it's a monkey grinder guy. Cool, I'm done for today. Yeah, that's it.
I thought the same thing. It's so on the nose that somebody should have said no.
You're just waiting for at some point somebody's going to make a statement about I've got a human on my back instead of I've got a monkey on my back. You're just waiting for little things like that you know are going to come because they set it up so blatantly.
If we're trying to establish kind of that bizarre like a market concept, I would have liked to have seen vendors and carts, and we talk about the sharpened knives and the ape thing, but I would like to see people milling about and shopping and buying things,
kind of like they did in the last movie where you saw the humans and the apes were living, and they were actually had stalls out.
And they had stalls and they were doing stuff like that. It'd be fun to see some fish or some unique animal hanging that's being fried or served or sold, just something that makes it look more like a market.
I agree with all that. I think there are also moments in this where it feels like, again, they don't want to cut on the information, tell me something, because when he looks back within the cart and finally speaks and they kind of give him the nod, the head shake, he looks to the back of the cart and we see Estella Warren's eyes catch him. You're trying at this point to tell me that there's something that's at least a friendly connection going to happen between these two very pretty people. Cut to her fucking face. Because we just get her blue eyes for a second and then it'll look away. And I'm like, that doesn't register. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know that she looked at him, and I know what you want, and it doesn't work.
Well, what I don't remember is from this original trailer. Do we know whether the humans talk or not? Are there?
I don't think they say in the trailer, but no, and that's kind of a cheat here, where they're like everybody just
shaking their head
and not saying anything when we know that they're going to talk later. Yeah,
yeah. If they didn't show it in the trailer, which they probably did, then we're supposed to, I guess, begin to wonder if they're also done like they were in the original films.
I'm trying to pull up the Tim Burton trailer, and we'll play it.
Because I'm curious. I can't remember if they showed the actors talking in the trailer or not.
I'm just going to zoom through it here.
Okay, let's listen to this is the official trailer. I don't know if there are a couple of them, so I don't.
I'm fast forwarding through it. Hang on, I see them yelling.
Well, I'm just gonna play it. We have nothing to lose.
One day they'll tell
they
a
do
story,
show them talking. Yes, I see.
and some will say it was just a fairy tale about a human who came from the stars and changed our world.
This is a much more exciting trailer than the movie is. We're seeing him coming. They're basically showing the movie chronologically. Because now we're
where freedom is history.
Where am I? What is this place?
Gotta vote!
still apes.
Brutality is law.
Rise when your master enters.
The powerful rule by fear.
Next, you'll be telling us these beasts have a soul.
These are all
There's a
apes.
soul in there.
It's disgusting the way we treat humans.
How the hell did they get like this?
What other way would they
Yep.
be?
If they see you on the street, they kill you on sight.
All right, there it was. At roughly 1 minute into it, Estella Warren speaks.
It's funny that music is music that they use in a lot of trailers. I just
Yeah.
heard it. It's from a band called E.S. Posthumous. I actually have that CD because I like that song.
Oh, yeah?
So I bought it for that song.
So you just glancing at the wiki real quick, the original the Planet of the Apes was released on July 27th, 2001, grossing $68 million in its opening weekend, the second highest opening of 2001 after Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It dethroned Star Wars episode The Phantom Menace for the best opening of a 20th Century Fox film. It also beat his own Batman Returns for the second biggest. The scoring for the biggest opening. It was the biggest. Surpassed Batman Returns for the biggest opening weekend for a Tim Burton film. So this movie did amazing stuff in the box office at the beginning, and it had largely to do with trailers. That's what would Tim Burton's name. Marky Mark, maybe, sure, but it had to do with what they created here. What I'm watching in the film so far is not really that exciting.
Well, I mean, let's go back to that opening bit. I'm going to go back to the 20th Century Fox logo, and you begin to hear, and I know that's Helena Bonham Carter talking. This has the sense of a folklore tale. So, I mean, listen to what she says.
Yeah, a man came from the stars.
One day they'll tell a story, and some will say it was just a fairy tale.
This is cut with desert
About a
locations.
human
He's on a
who came
horse.
from the stars.
This almost sounds like Lord of the Rings kind
Changed
of
our
type
world.
grandeur until we rock out. And by the way, it says from the director of Batman, and there's a
Sleepy
flare
Hollow.
behind it, and I swear to God, it's meant to look a little like the Bat logo, a little bit, just a little bit of a flare on it.
Yeah.
But had they made that movie, which, hey, let's reimagine Planet of the Apes and make it how the human is now, we see him as a savior of a sort. That's not the movie that we've got.
No.
That is not it at all.
or not yet.
I was talking again. I'd say so many times with Shelley. Shelley likes movies, but I'll talk to her about how a trailer is one thing and the movie is entirely different. All a trailer is meant to do is evoke a feeling. I don't understand how they have wanted to evoke that feeling to tell that this is the movie to go see. Now, again, it does almost sequentially show the exact movie. From that point on, we see, as she's talking, then we see him flying out in space. We see him crash landing. We see him in the jungle. We see him thrown in these situations. Back to the movie. There's none of that excitement. There's none of that grandeur at this point at all. And I think that's one of the things when you said that one shot looked like a Tim Burton shot. That almost has that Tim Burton grandeur, because think of the way the original Batman opens up.
Yeah.
It's that big shot of Gotham, and you're like, whoa, I've never seen Gotham look like this, and it bowls you over. We don't have that here.
We're going into the city, and the city itself is just flat. There's you're like, oh look, there's a monkey shaving another monkey. That's weird. It's just flat.
I wanted the monkey shaving the other monkey. Instead, it to be pests removed here, and so the monkey gives him money, and he just starts picking at him and started eating off him instead of shaving him.
Yeah, what weird things could you show? The odd thing
Everybody does everything outside. You notice nobody does anything indoors. I mean, they're shaving outside. The monkey grinder's outside. Everything's being now. Obviously, if something's being done behind doors, we're not seeing it. But it just looks like everything is out on display.
Let's talk about why the original film has a feeling of dread and sense of danger. And I think that's going back to something Sean said a little while ago, that during the hunt, it is a hunt. Humans are hung upside down. They're taking pictures with bodies. There is jeopardy to be had. He's seen his friend shot. We see those things. Then we see humans stuffed. Why in these streets are we not seeing some humans hung up and someone's eating some
ducks,
over here? Do they eat humans?
What do they use the humans for?
And it's where I also said, while I like a lot of this monkey stuff, I kind of think the idea of a human-esque gorilla is a little terrifying. The idea that they can apply human qualities to that brutish strength. Are they in turn also kind of taking away a truth of the element by making these humans more human-esque? They can speak. We know they're going to speak. We know that from the trailer. Are they ruining what makes Planet of the Apes what it should be by adding these elements, or is it making it better? I vote for it's kind of ruining what was so magical about the original 5 films.
When we got into Ape City, we had structures that were familiar yet unique. The city itself was constructed out of almost Flintstone-like elements. Something about the outdoor and the dustiness of everything happening had something that was very about going to like a Greek temple or something, just in terms of the style. Like, the garb made sense. Here, where one of Tim Burton's strengths typically tends to be the oddity of the visuals of sets and what we're moving in. This just looks like I'm on a safari ride at Disneyland.
It does a little bit.
Like I look up and there's
it's the Pirates of the Caribbean. You're seeing all the major scenes of what happens in a city. You're seeing people eat. You're seeing, hey, things for sale. Get your knife sharpened here. I'm surprised there wasn't a news story. Extra, read all about it. Humans captured and hunt.
Nothing about the set that is both familiar and alien to me. It just feels like I'm at a park ride. And I think that's a fault, because Tim Burton typically is very good at establishing these kinds of weird, odd sets and locations.
Yes, he is.
And this is just not it.
I think we did a poll at one point asking our listeners, what are you most excited about, talking about the original 5, the Tim Burton, or the new? And it was actually, it did lean more towards the original. But then the Tim Burton and the new were kind of evenly split, which I find shocking. But I also wonder, the people that revere this film, is it sort of like what the prequels are? Were you born of that era?
At the right time to get it.
And if it hits you, it's the perfect magic, and therefore you love it. There are cool things about it. Again, the makeup, costume, things like that are beautifully done. It just is lacking that idea of creating a world. It just feels ticky-tack put together, so that there are oddities and things to look at, instead of what is this world? What are they doing with humans? Why are we putting them in cages and hoarding them up? And I don't know.
When we're not, we're 20 minutes into the film now, and at least since we left the Oberon, we haven't had to have anybody really act yet, so we haven't really met any characters. We're just following Marky, and I think that also is a little bit limiting, because we got 2 lines from 2 different chimps. We've got him uttering a line here.
But
largely, it's been no need to find out who these characters are.
But at the same time, I want to remind you, the listeners, etc., that by this time in the original film, we knew that those humans could not speak. They were savages who stole clothes and ran through bushes.
At this time in the original film, we hadn't even met the ape yet.
I mean, I don't mean.
Okay.
I mean point of the story. I don't mean the execution of it. By this time, when we had humans, we knew they would go into and they would steal the clothes of the humans to do this. They were brutish. They were savage. They were eating raw vegetables from a field. That tells you something. That tells you, and what my information is here is I got a supermodel in the jungle, and that's all I know, and I don't know that works at all.
No. I think you're right.
I don't want to. I was just talking to somebody I know the other night about how I'm kind of tired of this idea that, like with Obi-Wan, that show, everybody's complaining, well, this and this happened. Well, hang on, the rest of the show's to come.
not over yet.
And so I know this, like that. This movie still has more to tell me. I'm just saying, compared to the previous film, they'd already told me a lot more that helped me to understand this world. And this one, it's like, man, I don't know.
Well, for using people complaining about Obi-Wan or Boba Fett or any of those movies, or people who are mad about the Marvel television shows, this is an adaptation of, or a re-envisioning of the original series. So it'd be almost too hard to kind of compare it from not being truthful to itself, because it is itself unique.
Right.
But so far, yeah, it's kind of flat.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of minute 20. I think we leave it here. We'll be back tomorrow with an in-between. But I do find it interesting, again, that this film has excluded the idea of defining elements like the humans to this point, so that when we meet them, we don't even have an idea. So I'll keep an eye on that going forward. I'm sure we'll have discussions on it going forward. Anyway, that's it for today. Everybody make sure to stay up with us on social media. We have seen our numbers once again grow during our off season. It kills me how all of a sudden one day I'm sitting there and I get like 20 notifications somebody's following the group, and I'm like, okay. We'll start putting things out there. We do have some exciting things, that we hope to share from time to time, but let your friends know about it, of course, and we appreciate everybody with your support. So with that, that's another week in the books. Everyone, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow with In Between.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Come in!